This is 91.3 FM, WCW in Worcester, Massachusetts, the Dr. Chris Radio of Horror program. And tonight on Radio of Horror from By Night Studios, we have Jason Carl on the show with us.
Hi, Dr. Chris. Thanks very much for having me. Great to be here.
For anyone not familiar with By Night Studios, which is the official licensed publisher for Mind's Eye Theater, which is part of White Wolf's World of Darkness, explain a little bit about what it is that you do.
Oh, absolutely. By Night Studios is an official licensed publisher of White Wolf products. White Wolf, as your listeners might know, is the creator of the World of Darkness, which is a whole universe of supernaturally themed games and entertainment products. It started 25 years ago. It's still going strong today. It's had several owners across those 25 years. Currently, it's a company that is owned outright by Paradox Interactive in Sweden, the makers of some great mobile games. And the World of Darkness, its flagship universe, is home to game titles like Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf the Apocalypse and Changeling the Dreaming. Is a publisher of Mind's Eye Theater products, and that means live-action role-playing games and events.
How did you get involved with them?
No one really knows, actually. It was dark. They were big. It was I'm not sure. No, actually, I've been involved with the World of Darkness in one capacity or another for a long time, a couple of decades, actually. I was a fan of Vampire the Masquerade from the moment it hit the stands, and I was a player, and I got involved in World of Darkness live-action role-playing back in the day, and eventually, through my work at Wizards of the Coast, where I worked on Magic the Gathering and Dungeons & Dragons 3rd Edition, I met some of the creators of the World of Darkness from White Wolf, and they were really generous and kind enough to give me an opportunity to demonstrate that I could write as well. And so I landed a gig as a role-playing game writer on a couple of their products, and I stayed with that for a long time. And today, I'm lucky enough to own the company that licenses those Mind's Eye products. It's really been a labor of love all these years.
Now, when I hear Mind's Eye Theater, I keep remembering a conversation I had a couple years ago when I was playing a Vampire the Masquerade. I kind of fell out of it. I felt like I was, I don't know. I'm a terrible actor, first of all. That's why I produce and write more than I act. And if I do act, I make sure I don't have any dialogue. And I'm the silent Bob of my own films, like Kevin Smith.
Oh, wow. It's kind of challenging, don't you find?
You know, I thought about maybe the next character I create for like a gang role or Nosferatu or whatever. I think I've been a Tordor in a gang role. Maybe I'll like sew my mouth shut and I'll like learn sign language.
Maybe take the mute flaw or something like
Exactly. That. You know, that gives you other enhanced abilities. But I digress. Were you guys known as the Camarilla?
Ah, I see what you mean. No, but I can help you with clear up that confusion.
Okay.
The World of Darkness, of course, has many devoted fans and fan communities around the world. It's really been a global phenomenon.
And just so everyone's listening, I'm a player. I'm not like a grounded, super big expert about the World of Darkness as I am with slasher movies and vampire films and Star Wars and Spider-Man. So just so everyone knows, kind of a player in the game. I know my clan, but the nitty-gritty behind-the-scenes stuff, this is a learning experience for me, people.
No worries. I got you covered, Dr. Chris. Here's the deal. The Camarilla was the very first official fan organization for the World of Darkness. It was founded, I think, in 1992 in Seattle. And it was dedicated not only to live-action role-playing, but also to exploring all the World of Darkness games and products. It later changed its name to the Mind's Eye Society, and it's still around today. It's got thousands of members around the world, all participating in live-action chronicles for all the World of Darkness games. And it's one of many global fan clubs. There are innumerable clubs dedicated to pursuing the same kind of passion in many different countries. But it's definitely the oldest, and it's one of the largest.
Going all the way back to 1992, I remember I was 14 years old in high school in 94. that was still really new, and I had heard of D&D, of course, and other role-playing games.
Sure.
But someone introduced me saying, "Have you ever heard of there's a vampire D&D?" And I was like, what's that? Isn't that Ravencroft or whatever it's called? Ravenlore, something like that. And
Ravenloft, I think is
it is Ravencroft.
It's Ravenloft.
Yeah. Ravenloft. Okay, I thought that's what they were referring to, and then I find out there was there's this whole thing, and there was just the one book at the time. We hadn't had like the 30 million revisions, and I think all the clan books were out at the time, and I was just like so immersed into it. Even back then, I wasn't much of a role player, but I wanted the books just because the artwork really like spoke to me.
Oh, sure. I think it's fair to say that Vampire the Masquerade and the World of Darkness really turned the role-playing game community and industry on its ear. Nothing like it had ever been seen before. It was really the first role-playing game and really the first gaming universe to really maximize the use of art to set a mood and a tone, and to tackle some very, what were at the time, some very progressive, edgy, and sometimes uncomfortable topics. So it played a huge role in transforming the RPG industry and community from solely based around fantasy like Dungeons and Dragons to something that was a little bit more modern.
Now, the event that you guys just had in New Orleans, would you consider that to be like the World of Darkness convention, kind of? I mean, even though it was a big game.
Yeah, the Grand Masquerade. The Grand Masquerade really is an epic convention for the World of Darkness community. It's the premier event for fans of the World of Darkness from around the world. People who love the World of Darkness story, the supernatural action, the rich mysteries of the universe, join together there to celebrate it. The last Grand Masquerade was 5 years ago for the 20th anniversary of the World of Darkness. What's special about this year is it's the 25th anniversary of the World of Darkness. So last weekend in New Orleans, hundreds of World of Darkness fans from around the world gathered to celebrate that silver anniversary.
So it wasn't just Vampire the Masquerade; it was also Werewolf the Apocalypse. Was it also Mage too?
Yeah, every aspect of the World of Darkness was celebrated in one form or another, whether through games, panels, art, activities. We were really lucky to have so many of the original creators of the World of Darkness with us as our guests. We had Mark Reinhagen, who is really the best known as the creator of the whole World of Darkness games and Vampire the Masquerade. We had his partners Stephen Stewart Wick, Justin Akili, Mike Tinney, Matt Burke, Tim Bradstreet, and Scott Harbin, who are artists who are really closely associated with the World of Darkness. And then we had the whole crew of the new White Wolf Company from Sweden there with us.
Was there a reason why maybe it was in the French Quartet of New Orleans? A little something to do with Anne Rice, maybe?
Well, I think it's fair to say that New Orleans is unique among American cities, and it's really closely associated with the vampire myth in America, arguably because of Anne Rice, but because of its own unique culture and history as well. The very first Grand Masquerade was held there, and the 20th anniversary Grand Masquerade was held there. So it seemed fitting that we should gather in New Orleans again, where the Grand Masquerade first began, and with the French Quarter as the backdrop, really have a great homecoming for everybody who loves this thing.
This is like a 4-day event, too. It wasn't just a couple-day weekend convention.
Yeah, this was a 4-day event held over the Labor Day weekend. We kicked off on Thursday the 1st, and everybody went home exhausted but happy on Monday the 5th. So it was really an epic time.
One thing I always like to see is fan films done based on things that we love. Did anyone have any World of Darkness fan films that were shown there?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there was a World of Darkness fan film that was screened there called Judas Goat. And Judas Goat is a remarkable production. It is an extraordinarily high-quality fan film that, excuse me, is the World of Darkness, really Vampire the Masquerade, from the point of view of the mortals who get sucked into or caught in the world of the vampires. You never actually see the vampires by name in the film. It's all told from the point of view of their servants. So imagine, if you will, a ghoul, which is a human who is entrapped into servitude or seduced into servitude by a vampire in the world of darkness. The film examines their life and their existence and the horrible things that they have to do in service to their undead masters. It's really disturbing. It's got tremendously high qualities, and it won some really major international film awards.
That's really cool. I'll have to definitely check it out. What was the exact name of it?
Judah's Goat.
Judah's Goat. Okay. You guys didn't have like a viewing room showing Kindred the Embrace, that classic TV series from the Fox era of 90s?
We thought about that, but in the end, we were we had so many activities, and we only had 4 days, and we only had so much space in the hotel where we were hosting the event.
Yeah, we
had to trim some stuff, and so we decided that that was one of the things that we would trim.
You got to give it credit. It's still to this day. It's 20 years later. Because I think it was 1996 when it debuted. If I'm wrong, correct me. It's the only official adaptation we've ever had.
That's true. So far, I think that White Wolf has made no secret of its ambitions to return to Hollywood if it can, and this would be the time to do it, right? Because television is now, of course, the darling of the storytelling medium. The long-form story is once again the most coveted form of storytelling. So focus has shifted away from movies and the silver screen. We have things like Netflix and web series and YouTube and Showtime and HBO, where you can do really deep, amazing stories in very detailed universes and with really strong narratives. So now would be a great time to re-examine that.
Just don't stick.
I would encourage you to invite White Wolf onto your show to talk about that.
It behoove them to also make sure it's on a network like Netflix or Amazon or HBO or Showtime, that we can really have an adult show, because it will never work on a network like Fox again. It will not work on the CW. CW is the superhero network these days. Maybe AMC. AMC could be a network for it, or maybe FX, because they push the boundaries of what they're allowed to show on basic cable.
Oh, sure. I'm in no way able to speak for White Wolf on the topic, but
this is our fan speculation, people.
I do agree with you. I think that the subject matter of the world of darkness is, unsurprisingly, very dark. It's very mature. It's very sophisticated. It's very sexy. And I think it deserves to be treated with some level of seriousness and really some level of graphic truth you might not be able to get on a broadcast network.
Now, I assume you and your partners, who also couldn't be with us tonight, you guys play, and what clans are you part of, and what's your character?
Yeah, we certainly do. In fact, in the credits of our books, we always give ourselves a clan. Or in the case of werewolves, we give ourselves a tribe, or whatever we happen to be writing about and publishing at the time. My favorite clan is the Ventru clan. Alyssa Ayadi, who is our marketing director, is very closely associated with the Bruja, the rebels. She considers herself an anarch at heart, I'm sure. Rick Connolly, who is our events manager, he's really tough to peg. He's really a werewolf. He's not a vampire at all. He's totally a Silver Fang, for sure. And Bob Ellis, our general legal counsel, is absolutely a Tremere. He's totally a blood wizard.
Do you guys ever do any type of play acting, hand-to-hand combat with other players and clans using like boffer weapons or something like that? Everything that's completely safe and regulated, so no one's getting hurt and no one's getting involved in something they don't want to. They're signing up knowing what they're going to be doing. So just in case there is an accident or an injury, it's all okay. And I mean okay as in no one's going to like sue or be
sure. I understand what you mean.
Okay, yeah.
There are a lot of terrific organizations in the world that are offering that type of experience. Excuse me. By Night Studios doesn't publish games in that format. Our Mind's Eye Theater games are published for what's normally called a parlor game style, where there is no touching and no contact. Combat is abstract and represented by a
playing cards
system.
Yeah.
Usually it's rock paper scissors as the randomizer, and then props are used are represented by index cards. There are such opportunities, though, to participate in that kind of game around the world, just not from By Night Studios.
When somebody is trying to get into this for the very first time, they absolutely love vampires, but they have never played anything like this other than a computer game, like Final Fantasy or whatever. But they've never done this before, never done tabletop before. What would be your recommendation in a brief summary of how they would do it to get involved for anyone listening in particular that's like, oh, I've always wanted to know about Vampire the Masquerade, but I'm afraid because... Who knows? I mean, I myself have anxiety issues, and maybe one of the reasons why I haven't rejoined my group is I've been very kind of like, my social anxiety sucks right now.
Oh, I understand. Role-playing is a very social activity. It's very immediate, and it's very personal. And anyone who experiences any level of social anxiety, and let's face it, we all do to some degree now and then, and some more than others, might find that initial approach a little daunting. And that's true of any specialized community, whether it's role-playing games or sports or stamp collecting or knitting. Anytime that you're approaching a group of people who share a common bond of knowledge and you don't have that knowledge yet, you're bound to feel a little anxious. In this particular instance, though, I'd say that the solution is the same as it is for all those other specialized communities, and that's that you should go with friends. And if you don't have a friend involved, you need to make a personal contact. Now, fortunately for the World of Darkness, there are innumerable fan clubs and groups out there who are making themselves visible and who are very welcoming of new people. And they know exactly how to show new players, new participants, how to have a great time without feeling anxious. Most of the fan clubs that we talked about earlier all have newcomer programs and newcomer games designed especially to help new players get involved and feel like they are welcome. And many tabletop groups too as well. Tabletop is probably a little tougher to find because I'm not aware of any fan clubs devoted specifically to tabletop, nor is there an organized play program like there is for Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons or Call of Cthulhu, at least not yet. So that's a little tougher, and the personal friendship, the friend recommendation is going to be a lot more important in finding a table to play with than it is for a LARP. That was probably a longer answer than you wanted.
No, it's fine. We are totally. We have interviews that go anywhere from like 10 minutes to like 2 hours. So don't worry about it.
Well, you tell me what's good. I'm here for you.
It's just sometimes it cut in it. It's just a matter of us being on Skype, and this part will be edited out, of course. The audio goes and I think you're done, and it like picks up or whatever in the middle of you saying something, so it cuts you off. So the interruption is not intended. It's just a matter of like the Skype going out and thinking, oh, he's done talking, but no, you're still talking. But for some reason, the audio went. That's my best impression of Skype.
Wow, that's really impressive.
But you were talking about the tabletop thing. I swear to God, and I've been with this since 2 years after it started, off and on. Yeah. I've never seen a tabletop Vampire the Masquerade. It's always been we need to find a place for people to stand around and do something. One place in particular in Massachusetts, they used to do it at a church. How cool is that?
Well, I think these days what you're going to find is that for many tabletop role-playing games, it's no longer necessary for everyone participating to be gathered around the same physical table space. Thanks to a variety of software programs, not to mention just Skype and Google Hangouts, people can play tabletop games virtually online. Friends can be scattered around the world, but as long as they get together for 4 hours, they don't actually need to sit in the same place. So I think if you were to go on Twitch TV and YouTube, you're actually going to see quite a few World of Darkness tabletop games being played, many of them virtually. In fact, if you like, I'll send you a couple of URLs, links to some particularly good tabletop game videos that are out there.
Oh, fantastic! That would be awesome.
Sure.
Excuse me.
No worries. So I think it's fair to say too that LARP is probably more visible just because it's more immediately active. It's something that it really commands attention in the here and the now. And so I think that it's easier to find examples of LARP being played on any given weekend than it is maybe a tabletop, which is by nature an enclosed activity.
Did you ever see the Bloodline PC game?
Oh, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Absolutely. And for many people, that was their first experience with the World of Darkness. I can't tell you the number of people who started their enthusiasm for Vampire the Masquerade or the World of Darkness with Bloodlines. They just skipped the tabletop game or LARPs completely and came in through that avenue.
The first experience for me, other than like seeing people play it when I was in high school, and of course nobody wants to play with a high school kid, so I had to wait till I was an adult. Yeah, that was the only bad thing. As much as I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's always like you're like the 14, 15-year-old kid, and there's like all these adults, and they don't want to play with you. So when I was 18, I moved to Worcester, and or I had been living in Worcester for last year with my mom, and there was a gaming store, the Dragon's Lair. And I found out they were going to have a big kind of welcoming people event to the thing, a good way for new people to join who have never played before, and I had never played before. And it was on Halloween night, 1998, which was a Friday. Spooky. And it was so much fun. And I got to meet. This is how I got to know a couple people that were very who are very close to. One of which has passed away a few years ago, which was unfortunate. But really, really nice guy. And then after we got done playing, it was like 3 to 4 hours of playing. We all, in our costumes and makeup or vampire fangs, we all just like, hey, we're going to go to the movie theater. What's playing? John Carpenter's Vampires, starring...
Perfect.
It was
Perfect.
The day that movie came out, too. So we all went to the theater for a 10 o'clock showing. Wow. So much fun. We all show up at the movie theater. This is 1998, by the way, people. So for anyone too old to remember, too young to remember... the day we're recording this is 9/11/2016. This is the 15th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. After that happened, a lot of things changed. And then it happened again in 2012 during the Dark Knight shooting. You're not allowed to wear costumes, makeup, or anything in a movie theater anymore. But before that, you totally could.
I think it's fair to say that for many players, the line between tabletop and live action blurs. If you go back 25 years to the original Vampire the Masquerade first edition role-playing game book, you're going to find guidelines in there for live action at the table, kind of a live action tabletop mix, a LARP top, if you will. And live action has always been part of the World of Darkness because a lot of the stories that you tell with these games, with Mage the Ascension, with Wraith, with Orpheus, with Vampire, are really immediate, and they lend themselves really well to being acted out, even at a table. So what you guys were doing, not really all that unusual.
What books do you guys have out right now that you recommend people find?
So I think that I would recommend first and foremost Mind's Eye Theater, Vampire the Masquerade. That was our very first book, and what we did there was we tried to revise a system, Mind's Eye Theater, that had last been touched 12 years ago with the Laws of the Night revised books, and we needed to bring that up to date. LARP has changed, the world has changed, the tastes of gamers around the world had changed, and certainly the community that was playing the games had changed quite a bit. So we needed to update the book, both the rules and the story, bring it forward 12 years, and make it really accessible to a broad number of people.
Is that really hard to do?
Yeah, it's really hard to do. It's really very, very difficult, but it's incredibly rewarding. We had a large team to work on it, and the team was incredibly experienced. It brought many, many years of familiarity with the product and the communities to the table, no pun intended. And so while it was very hard, it was probably a little easier for us than someone who was just coming in fresh, who had no experience with the World of Darkness.
Yeah, I can just imagine that you'd have to hire like some people who are just super duper experts and know the game mechanics inside and out, just because like, you know, the slightest or you know, like a major chunk that they don't know about could really affect how they're writing it, and then it just doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely true. And what we did was we tried to apply a really modern design sensibility. I worked on the last iteration of Mind's Eye Theater for Vampire, The Laws of the Night, some 12 years ago. And the rule system that we used then was very freeform. It really didn't try to mathematically balance it. That wasn't the point. It was much, much more theatrical and much, much more narrative. Today's audience often prefers something a little bit more balanced and a little bit more codified. They want to know that there are hard rules and boundaries. Not everybody wants to play that way, but many do. And so we decided to try to create a system that was halfway between tabletop and live action. And the way we did that was that we stripped everything down to its component parts, just ripped the metal right off the chassis, got right down to the motor, and we started looking at how people actually play the game. And then we looked at what makes a good live action experience, what makes a game fun for everybody. And I'll show you what I mean. Here's an example. You said that you know your clans. What's your favorite clan, Chris?
I want to say Toreador.
Okay.
But
Toreador.
the problem is, apparently, let me back up. Sorry, I'm stuttering over words. I want to say Toreador. The problem is, I've been told I don't play it like a Toreador. Because Toreadors need to be a bunch of uptight, stick up their asses, poet, actor, bitchy little prissy. What's the word I'm trying to find?
Well, I think some of them are.
Yeah, that's basically what I was described
by no
that I
means
need to
all
be,
of
and
them.
I'm not acting that way. So it kind of made me not want to play that type of character anymore. I don't know if they were trying to give me constructive criticism, but it just made me feel like crap.
Well, at their baseline, each of the clans does have a stereotype and an archetype.
Yes.
The Toreador are known for their affiliation with art, and some of them are artists, and some of them really are mean boys and girls who you might find at a high school prom.
Snobs. That's the word I was looking for.
Sure, snobs. And some of them aren't. Some of them are bohemian artists who live to create masterpieces, and some of them are politicians. And all the clans' stereotypes are touchstones. They're guidelines. They're not hard and fast, and there are as many exceptions to each of them as there are exceptions in real life. But let's take the Toreador, for example. In tabletop, the Toreador have a set of powers that enable them to do certain things, and that lets them live up to their stereotype. But in the previous Mind's Eye Theater LARP rules, they weren't like that at all. The system didn't let them behave the way they were described. Same thing for, you mentioned the Gangrel earlier. They're supposed to be these incredible warriors with amazing fortitude and staying power in a fight. But in the live action roles, they didn't come across that way at all. So what we had to do was go back and look at each clan and look what was fun and try to create rules that allowed each clan to be good at the thing it's supposed to be good at, and to make sure that every choice was good. So no matter what clan you chose, you felt like you'd made a good choice and could have some fun. And that really is hard to do.
Do you think someone needs to have a great sense of imagination in order to play this game? If they can't create one around them, they maybe shouldn't play?
Boy, that's a great question.
Thank you.
I'm really
Dude, I've been doing this for 9 years. It's still hard to come up with great questions that don't just sound like a normal fucking Q&A that you hear about, we can read in a magazine. You know what I'm saying? All right.
A great question.
Go ahead.
I'm really hesitant to say that.
Jason, hold on a second. I'm losing you.
Are you there?
Say something.
Hello?
All right. Okay. For some reason, it just sounded like you walked like onto the other side of the room.
Weird.
All right. Let me just pull the volume up just a bit. All right. Now say something.
Okay. How's that?
It still sounds a little bit distant, but it should be okay as long as it doesn't sound awful when it comes out later.
Let me lean closer to the microphone.
There you go. Okay, that's better. Maybe you just step back an inch and that made a difference. Okay.
Could be.
If I sound like I'm shouting, I'm not. I turned the volume up.
No worries. So, your great question. I'm really hesitant to ever say that somebody should not play this game, or any particular game for that matter. I don't think that's my place to say that. I think every individual has to decide for themselves what activities are right for them. It does help, but at the same time, I have to believe that these games help develop imagination. They encourage it and they reward it. So people who feel that they don't have a strong imagination or have a rich, inner life, might help develop those things through association with the game. I'm not sure it should be a barrier to entry.
I've had people say to me that they just don't think they can come up with a great kind of story arc and character idea. And I was like, if there are people there playing, maybe at that particular game who can't help you, maybe that's not the group for you to play with. Maybe find a group that is really welcoming and that can help teach you how to improve your character and make you seem better, because you don't need to be a thespian actor to play this game.
I absolutely agree with you. I think that's great advice. Not every group is going to be right for every person, and the group focus varies wildly from group to group. Some live action role playing groups, both in the World of Darkness and other games and genres, are highly competitive, and the enjoyment comes from pursuing victory either in a very black and white win-loss version or in a very abstract social or political framework. Some are focused on costuming, some are focused on acting, some are focused on immersion and making it feel real for the duration of the experience. And some are focused on just having fun with friends. I think it's really important to find the group that supports your approach and your personal taste. And since there are plenty of groups out there, it shouldn't be hard to find one that works for you.
If people want to find more information about By Night Studios and Mind's Eye Theater, what do you recommend they look up on social media and the website?
We're everywhere for your convenience. The best place to start is either our website, which is bynightstudios.com, and that showcases our company and our products. And of course, our social media page, our Facebook page, facebook.com/bynightstudios, will take you into our community. We also, on our website, have a game finder. So if you're looking for a game experience near you, you can use that tool and hopefully find one.
Oh, and there was one other thing we didn't touch upon, only because you corrected my confusion before we began. Can you talk anything about the documentary that White Wolf is putting together?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can tell you what it is.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking me about?
Yeah. Just because I don't know. I'm not very familiar with it, and I don't know if there was a Kickstarter maybe I missed about it, or if it's still in development before they even get there, or if they're even going to do Kickstarter.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, I can help you with that. So, the World of Darkness documentary is from filmmakers Lucky Day Productions, and the series is independently made. And its goal is to give its audience an in-depth, very behind-the-scenes and candid look into how the World of Darkness and Vampire the Masquerade came into being and how it created the phenomenon in the middle of the 1990s. World of Darkness and Vampire had a tremendous influence on media and film of all types after its debut, and I think that its impact sometimes is not well understood or recognized, and I think that this documentary will help put that really into context. So the documentary film crew was at the Grand Masquerade with us, and over the weekend they had individual interviews with all of those World of Darkness luminaries that I mentioned, like Mark Reinhagen and Tim Bradstreet and Justin Akili. And they filmed a lot of the activity at the Grand Masquerade. They filmed our LARPs, they filmed our panels, they filmed our discussions, they shot pictures of us eating lunch, and I think that they talked to a lot of fans who were there about their personal experiences. And I know that the director Giles Anderson and the writer Kevin Lee are really very dedicated to making a really in-depth exploration of the whole phenomenon.
Jason, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. It just completely cut out.
Sorry.
It just stopped. So I wasn't sure if you were done talking or not.
Okay.
What was the mark on that?
No, you didn't. You didn't miss a Kickstarter. To the best of my knowledge, Lucky Day is financing the documentary itself. I'm not sure. You could always write them and ask.
Cool, awesome. I will. I am definitely looking forward to it. Excuse me. I had mentioned to you before we started, like, there's just an influx of like fan documentaries coming out, and this is the only one I'm aware of about a role playing game. I don't know if there's like a D&D documentary in the works or anything like that, but this is the only one I know that's based on a role playing game. But there's like these filmmaker fan documentaries coming out that are getting licensed either by the studio or they're getting posted under educational purposes only on so many different things. And the horror community, which is where, of course, World of Darkness is very doped in the horror community, is mainly where it's at. I mean, with the exception of a couple things, like there's a video game art documentary coming out. There's a Masters of the Universe documentary coming out, which my inner child's like, woo! There was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle documentary a couple years ago. And then now we've had like Jason, Freddy, Michael. They've all had documentaries. And for vampire fans, there's a Fright Night documentary. And Juliet Landau, who played Drusilla on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
The Undead documentary. I supported that Kickstarter myself.
Yes. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. But I'm not sure why you're surprised. This all makes perfect sense to me.
Well, I'm just surprised that it's exploded as much as it has. In the last 4 years, all of a sudden, it's like documentary.
Sure.
And they're good. And they're long.
I think what you're going to find is that any time that there's a pop culture revolution, shortly after that revolution happens, documentaries get made because the people who are enjoying the benefits of that revolution want to explore the roots of the phenomenon, and they want to see how the thing that they love came into being. And right now, we are in the middle of a pop culture phenomenon that is deeply associated with geeks and nerds. This is the time of the geek. It's geek culture is mainstream now, certainly far more than it ever was before. We live in a time where everybody goes to the latest Avengers movie. It's not just for comic book fans. Star Trek is a global phenomenon of colossal proportions. Vampire films like Twilight and Underworld are for everybody. Geek culture and nerd culture are mainstream, so it's no surprise to me that there are documentaries being made about these things. It makes sense.
And I hope that we have more coming based on things that you just never thought that we'd have. I mean, we have a whole vampire one coming. Maybe there'll be a werewolf one eventually.
There might be a werewolf one. There might be a Jetsons documentary. Maybe Land of the Lost. Who knows? I think that documentaries that explore the roots of a current zeitgeist are really healthy, and I think they're beneficial to us all for understanding how we got here. So I'm really excited about the World of Darkness documentary. I was really thrilled to see the film crew in action, talking to so many World of Darkness fans at the Grand Masquerade, and filming them as they were participating in all those activities. It was great.
Cool. Well, Jason, we really appreciate you taking some time out to come on the show with us to talk about your organization and everything you guys have done up till now, and your amazing contribution to the world of role playing games and live action role playing games and geek culture in general, involving with horror and vampires. Because I mean, this is quite the stamp that you've put on it. So.
Thank you, Dr. Chris. Thank you very much for having me. It was great to be here, and I hope we get the chance to come back again when we do Werewolf. We're just finishing we're putting the finishing touches right now on Mind's Eye Theater Werewolf: The Apocalypse, and so the Werewolf game is going to hit in about December. We're going to drop that around December, and hopefully we'll be able to come back and talk to you about that.
Absolutely, yeah. I've never actually played Werewolf before. It's vampires has always been like my go-to thing. I've read about vampires and my comic book being about a Dracula vampire. Werewolves have always been like more of an observation, so that would definitely be more educational for me because I'm not a werewolf. Is there a Mummy World of Darkness game?
There certainly was. Mummy was there was a Mummy RPG in several incarnations of the World of Darkness. And I don't know if there will be one when White Wolf launches the new World of Darkness, the 5th edition.
Okay,
we'll see.
That was the one that was. I remember someone mentioning that. I was like, "There's a Mummy. That's so cool." And then there's Mage, and I think that's it, right?
Well, there are 5 core games, right? So there's Vampire the Masquerade. There's Werewolf the Apocalypse, excuse me, Mage the Ascension, there's Wraith and Changeling. And there are, I guess you could call them sub-games that branch out from those. For example, Orpheus is related to Wraith, even though it is not a core game by itself.
Gotcha. Cool.
Right. Mummy is a standalone. It's related to all the other World of Darkness games, but it's really intended to stand by itself.
All right. Gotcha. Now, just one last thing. Did the Masquerade, did they all like converge and merge and interact with each other? Did they all kind of go their separate ways?
I don't think I understand the question. Sorry.
The Grand Masquerade, was that just the deal? Was that just about vampire, or did that include everything? And did they all like interact with each other? Did they all have like, like in-game beef or anything? Like, oh, they're the vampires. Oh, they're the werewolves. Was it like what was that? Oh God, what's that vampire comedy that just came out?
What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes, What We Do in the Shadows.
That was hilarious.
And they're making a sequel about the werewolves.
I know. I can't wait. So cool. To answer your question, I'm going to say yes and no.
Okay.
At the Grand Masquerade, there are a number of live-action games as well as tabletop games and other kinds of activities related to the World of Darkness. In the live-action role-playing games, those are run generally by there are 2 kinds. There are role-playing games run by fan clubs, and there are role-playing games run by my company, By Night Studios. In both instances this year, they were dedicated to individual games. So there were Vampire the Masquerade live-action games, and there were werewolf games, but they didn't mix.
Okay.
Next year, who knows?
And I missed the Grand Masquerade, so I have 5 years to wait for the next one, for the 30th anniversary.
Well, we'll see. We are really seriously considering doing it again next year. Actually.
Oh, okay. All right, good. I don't have to wait till I'm 41.
Yeah, that sounds so old. Wow.
Oh, God. And it's like, I just got to get up out of my rocker to go put on a couple plastic fangs. And
you suffer.
Well, thank you so much, Jason, for coming on the show with us to talk about everything.
You are welcome, Dr. Chris. Thank you very much for having me. It was great.